So we've had a pretty big few days with Tim up here. A lot of the dash work has been done, so we've got a curve in the steelwork. He's put battens out, he's measured all of those, we've completely levelled the dash out and got all the plywood cut to do all of that dash. We've also made boxes that go all the way around, so like gauges and all sorts of things like that sit within these boxes and so on. And we've figured out how we're doing our mullion shrouds. So these are the little, the whiz-bang little pieces of plywood that go around each of the steel beams that go between the windows. So that's sort of complete to a point now where we need to go through and preserve everything. So that's been the last few days, and over the next few days we've got a guy from Brisbane coming up called Adam. Adam is helping us set up all of our wiring runs that go between the wheelhouse and the engine bay, so the bridge and the engine bay. We've got to figure out how to do all of the cable runs, how many cable runs we're doing. We need to figure out how we're doing the glands. So all of those electrics and cable runs have to have redundancy. They have to have the ability to try and resist sort of water egress and then also fire. So if there's like a fire in the engine bay, we don't want all our wiring melting and losing a lot of our control system. So there's quite a lot of thought we have to put into all of that to make sure it's as safe and redundant as possible. So we'll be going through that. Ryan's also heading up. So Ryan has a stack of editing that we need to do, so looking forward to that, because we've got another bunch of shots that we want to get with the drone and some trick editing stuff. He's brought up some toys. We're getting new microphones, some gimbals and a whole bunch of other things that will hopefully get our camera work a bit more smick. And finally Rebecca is coming up from Brisbane as well. She's going to be doing a lot of the wood preserving, so all of the wood that Tim has just created, like cutting it into the different shapes, Rebecca's going to be going through and putting a 2-pack epoxy wood preserver over all of that. So Tim can't do the next layer of progression in the wheelhouse until all of that is sort of completed and preserved. So once that's done, we'll be able to assemble all of the woodwork into the wheelhouse, and then he can start building, the next layers of the wheelhouse on top of that preserved wood. So yeah, a lot of people coming up, a lot of work that we're going to get done. We've already done a lot, and yeah, looking forward to seeing what we can get into. So I'm going to make the 4 dogs that essentially ratchet the rear doors closed, so they'll pull the doors up tight against the foam. So we're going to use stainless for a couple of reasons. One, it's hard, so it's not going to deteriorate over time. If I use something like alloy, it's a softer metal, so it'll wear out faster. But as you know, stainless is pretty good with corrosion, so we don't have to paint them, and therefore we don't have to worry about trying to stop rust and all of that sort of jazz. What I need to do, there's a couple of components that I need to build with these dogs. So this piece of stainless, you can sort of see, if I come right up, you can see I've cut basically in, it's a wee bit hard to see, the camera's not really focusing, but I've sort of cut maybe 90% of the way through, and then bent that in a 45, so I'll fill it up in a 90, so I'll fill that up with weld. And then likewise, I've also, where this kink is, I've also basically sliced it with a 1mm disc and bent it up, and that's the maximum that I can achieve with a 1mm disc. So I'm using that as my baseline. I then create a piece of stainless that has the equivalent shape on it, and then this bit gets welded on top of that, like that, if that makes sense. So just in there like that, and it sort of sits right on one edge, so you can see that it sits, it's warm, so I'm just nervous to hold it with these gloves. So you can sort of see it sits right on the edge like that, and what that does is try and describe it. If you imagine this will all make sense when you actually see the dogs, but if you imagine this dog here comes in, and as it hits that angle, gets pulled further and further down until it locks into this flat part. Now the reason why it's quite thick, so the handle of the dog's going to be 6mm stainless, and this here, as you can see, is quite clearly much thicker. The reason there's a difference is to allow for the bolt, which is going to become a pivot. So when you add the height of the bolt, it actually works out to be absolutely perfect for the 6mm that we need for the handle. So that's the plan. I'm going to weld one of these up and then do some testing and see if it works, and if it works, I've got 3 more of them to build. So let's get into it. So here are my 2 pieces. I need you to pretend that this here is a lever with a pivot that does that, and then you've got this piece here, you can sort of see that shape, and it's welded like a, so I'm going to show you a better way around. You sort of see that, so you've got that shape there welded onto a piece of flat bar. As this here swings and pivots round, it hits this, and that angle slides that further and further up, and then that locks into that spot there. So once it's there, it's basically in a locked position, and when it's here, it's pulling the door closer and closer into the foam. So I'm going to make 3 more of those. Pretty confident they're going to work. I'm not even going to bother testing them. I know that they're going to work. So yeah, I'll knock up 3 more of those, and yeah, then we'll start welding them up to a door. This is my first one, my little test piece. Have 4 of them built, so I have 2 left-hand and 2 right-hand versions, if that makes sense. I was struggling to try and work out how they were all going to work, and then I realised obviously I'm going to have to build 2 different from, 50% of them have to be the opposite direction. So I have them all welded up. They're too hot to touch. However, I can show you this one. This is the last one that we welded, so you can see they start off pretty monstrous with big old welds on them. But once we flatten them down, they come up like that, so they come up pretty beautiful. Ow, that was really hot. They come up really beautiful. So when these cool down, I'll go through, trim them up, and flapper all the welds down, and then yeah, then I'm pretty much ready to start making levers and welding stuff onto the doors and onto the frames. But yeah, no, we're getting really close. So through the wheelhouse here, we've got Tim. You can sort of see what he's doing here along the dash. We've got essentially battens of different heights, and if you look along there, you can sort of see you got the curve of the steel, and he's flattened it out with this aluminium straight edge all the way across. So these battens will go right the way across to the wall, and you can sort of see over there there's quite a height difference because of that curve in the deck. So the plan is to basically run battens lengthwise right along, and then flatten that whole what will become the chart table out as well. Thanks, Tim. And Jess is in the cooking hovel. So yeah, we've got some food on for the dog, and we're having a bit of a hell of a clean up in here. Yeah, so life is normal when there's a few people on the boat. So yesterday I made these basically little latch things that you saw me building, and they were a lovely, beautiful and elaborate balls up. I got the bloody things, so instead of latching the door shut, they latched the door open. I don't know how I made that mistake. It seems so stupid, but anyway, what I actually needed to build was this. So it's actually a piece of 6-inch diameter pipe that I've cut roughly a quarter off, and then if you can see, if I hold that like that, you can sort of see it builds up and up and up and up to about there, and it gets to, that's 10 mil high, and then it's a flat of 10 mil. So what happens is the door latch gets wedged, as it rotates around, gets wedged higher and higher and higher, and then it stops on that flat. So that's what I had to build, but I didn't. So anyway, yeah, now that I've figured out what I need to do, it's incredibly easy and fast to build these. It's 5 minutes of cutting just a piece of stainless pipe, and then I just need to weld that up the top. The only thing I need to do is put like a little hard stop on the end, just so that the you don't over close it, if that makes sense. So it'll just be a stop that basically, as the lever comes up, it hits it, and that's it. It won't go anymore. Unfortunately today it's absolutely bucketing down with rain. So in my little workshop where I am now, I'm pretty covered by tarps and stuff, so I'm pretty clear. Tim is doing the dash, so I'll show you what's going on in the dash in a second. But yeah, actually I'll grab the camera. I'll show you Tim's workbench currently. So if you can see that bench down the end there with the tarp all over it, yeah, there's just no way for him to be able to work without getting covered in rain at the moment. So we've given up outside work for the woodworking, but I'll show you what's going on inside. Up in the wheelhouse, Tim he's got some wood up. So the plan is, you can see this piece of wood that goes across above the windows. So that's going to be covered in material. Let's see if I can show you that. But it's rounded at the front edge, and yeah, he's obviously just figuring out with those blocks of wood heights and measurements and stuff. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, yeah.
Good. Alright, so yes, we've stripped back the dash. So it used to have all of the strips of wood over it yesterday, you remember, to get the heights. That's all been stripped back so that we can turn it back into a workbench while we sort this other piece out. And our local hardware store is not open today because it's a public holiday. So we're running out of wood, and it's absolutely bucketing down out there. You can't really see it at the second, but it's we're struggling to have clear workspace at the second. Alright, so now that I know what I'm having to build to make these actually work, I've got the two components that I need. So this is my ramp, so if you can sort of see that, see if I can get the camera to focus. It basically starts at nothing and comes up to where my fingers are at 10 millimeters thick, and then there's a big flat spot from here onwards, it's all flat. So what I need to do is basically add a little bit more, so I tack this on like this, and then I actually cut out my stop and everything and my shape and all that sort of stuff, and this is where all of the shape and the prettiness is. So it's a two-piece thing that I'm building. So I'm going to build that second bit now, and yeah, then put it up onto the door up top. So these handles that we're using, I need to bend them like that. So that I don't smack my knuckles into the door, etc. We need to give it a bit of clearance. So the way we do it is we slice two 1mm cut-off discs through about 80% of the way on one way, and then through this way on the other side, and then just bend it accordingly. So if you can see that, see if I can get it to. Don't know if it's gonna show you, but basically what we do, yeah, as I say, it's gone about 80% of the way through. It comes up with a nice, lovely, smooth bend. So I weld it on the inside of the bend, so there, and then across there, and then I can just yeah, flapper it up and polish it up fine. So that's how we bend our stainless. So this is the system that I've made. So you can sort of see the lever there, can swing around, etc. And then at the top, I've basically got like an arc that's cut out of a piece of 6-inch diameter stainless pipe, Schedule 40 pipe. And then I've built like a little hard stop. You can sort of see that little thing there. So as this comes up, it pulls the door in tighter and tighter and tighter until it gets to there, which is the maximum that it'll pull it in. And then you keep pushing it up, and it goes up against a hard stop, and it just stops it at 90 degrees. So yeah, I'm really stoked with that. And then I'll see if I can show you in this dimension. I bent the handle out, so I curved it. There we go, get the camera to focus. So I curved it and then welded it and flapped it back down. Yeah, so that's if I had a press, I probably would have just bent it in a press, but I don't. So, but yeah, no, I'm stoked. It works really well. So as you can see, there's no gap between steel on steel. So we'll be putting 3mm foam in there, or what's that, 1/8 of an inch. So that it'll be the foam that seals up on that. So I've got the foam, I just haven't put it in yet.
Hey, he's finally here.
How are you?
Good, how you doing? Good to finally meet you. Come on up.
Cheers.
Welcome to Brupeg.
Thank you.
We
So
have,
here's
I don't know if it matters. We've got water
Damon
tanks,
Adam
at the front. So
figuring out the electrical system on the boat.
should just grab it.
Early morning. This is Adam.
Morning.
Adam's come up from Brisbane. He's generously given some of his time to help us on the boat. Amazing.
Easy boat. You've got,
Where's the Mish? Mishka. Caught in the act, Mish. On video too, evidence.
Trying to sleep all breakfast.
He is, he's still hopeful.
Fuel.
So all our parts bins open and so on, going through everything that we've got. All our various gauges and fuel flow sensors, the throttles and everything. Adam's sorting all of the design, so it's our plan is coming together in terms of what we're going to use, how many cores each cable is, etc. We're factoring in things like, so this here's the rev counter, so hooks off the there we go, hooks off the back of the alternator on the boat. So unlike a petrol where you've got a coil or whatever, in a diesel you go off the back of an alternator. And then yeah, just a whole stack of these like little oil pressure gauges and stuff. We've got to wire those in, and then we've got a couple of water pumps that are just going to be used as dummy pumps, but we're going to be essentially bringing wires down so we can do fuel transfer pumps and so on. So Brupeg's engine bay, what we're doing is hooking up the wiring. So Adam's come up from Brisbane for the weekend, and we are hooking up the wiring that goes from all of the controls in the engine through up into the bridge or the wheelhouse. In order to do that, I'll show you what we've got to do. Hang on. There it is. Righto. So we need to basically run what have we got? We've got 50 individual runs of wire. That's with no redundancy and no spares or anything like that. So we're going to be running about 80 to 100 wires between here and the bridge, just so that we've got bucket loads of redundancy. And we're also going to put them in separate strands of wire. So the wiring that we're getting is, I think it's 17 or 18 core. So basically that's, if you don't understand wiring, like me, it's basically one individual core of wire. Imagine there's 18 of those in a group, and then that's all strapped together. That's one of the 4 strands that we're running. So we're going to be running quite a few wires between here and the bridge. We have to run it up in a pipe, so we're using 304 stainless mandrel bent exhaust. So I think it's that's 1.6 millimetre. So it's quite thin. I'm used to working on like significantly bigger stainless, so it'll be a challenge to weld, but that'll be all good. So what we're going to do is, I'll show you down the back. So where you've got this watertight door, we're running the 3-inch pipe basically through this bulkhead, and it's coming all the way through, and it's double continuous welded on both sides. It's running all the way through to a box, like an electrical box in the engine bay here, and then there's going to be glands and so on going out, watertight glands going out for all the cabling, and then there's going to be, it's essentially going to be sealed shut, so it'll be a sealed box. The pipe, so it goes through this bulkhead, goes forward, and then sort of wiggles itself around until it's just underneath the floor of the wheelhouse, and then it goes directly up through and into the wheelhouse. So the engine bay and the wheelhouse will be connected by this pipe. So if the engine bay floods and the boat sinks low enough down, theoretically the water can go up this pipe and then into the wheelhouse. However, in order for that to happen, it would have to breach the box that we're going to make as well. So the box is going to be pretty watertight. So that's what we're working on at the moment, making all of this 3-inch stainless go all the way to the wheelhouse. Is it working?
Fantastic. Half-round files, filing round holes.
Alright, so this morning we're going to have another go at this electrical pipe that we're doing. So I'll show you the join that I'm working on. So you can see down here we've basically got a 90-degree bend and 2 straights, and I'm welding all the way around here. The issue that I have is this is polished stainless and it looks beautiful, and like so's the bend and everything like that, and it looks lovely, and this is a visual piece of pipe. So I don't want to have splatter and crap all over it. So I don't want to have splatter and crap all over it. So I don't have anti-splatter spray, and I know someone's going to go, why don't you get some anti-splatter spray? Well, great, I don't have any. I do have 50 pairs of old welding gloves. So what I'm going to do is try just duct taping at either side of the weld like that, and then doing a run. I know I'm going to get a little splatter either side, but I'm not going to get these big manky bits that I had coming all the way out. So if it doesn't work, nothing lost, but yeah, I'm going to give that a shot and see if it actually if it works and I can do pretty welding. Righto, here we go. So you have different rollers between steel and alloy, and I've only got steel rollers and they're worn out, and I need to get some more, but my welder's a bit of an old beast, so parts are getting harder and harder to get for it. I'd love to get a new welder, but I'm so bloody close to finishing, I'm just going to press on with the one that I've got. That said, the issues that I'm having with it aren't bad enough to stop me, so I'm just gonna, you know what it's like when you don't have the tools that you want, you've got the tools that you have, so you just press on and get it done anyway. So yeah, weld is about, I don't know, 70% awesome. The awesome rating is slowly going down, and I'm able to do less and less awesome with the welder, just for the non-welders out there if you're wanting to know the technical details. But my rag idea worked, so that's pretty positive. All I did was just chopped up an old glove. That's the inside, that's why it's lovely and clean, and that's the skanky old outside. I sliced it with a craft knife, so it's a nice straight edge, and then I could just wrap that pretty close, because this is relatively heat resistant, pretty close to the weld, and I've got next to bugger all rubbish on the weld from my tape. So that's pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with that. It's not the easiest of techniques, and it works good if you're welding, like I imagine straight to straight would work really well. Because I'm welding around a corner, it's a bit hard to wrap it well, but considering what it was like before, this is way better. So I'm going to carry on with that. I'm going to get these welded. Adam is going to be fitting this today, because it's a work day for me, so I'm actually not working on the boat. I'm actually doing a job so I can earn money and pay for the boat. Adam is going to be fitting this pipe today, and then he's going to be wiring in the water pumps for the front tanks, and something else, nav lights in the wheelhouse, because we're putting the ceiling on soon. Tim is coming next week and he's going to be doing the installation and ceiling, so we need to start getting the wiring run up on the roof of the wheelhouse. So we've got nav lights up there, and we've also got a whole bunch of control wires that need to go up. So above where the skipper of the boat sits, in the driver's chair, there's like a switch panel above, just up to your, the left hand side, so it's not directly above, it's off to one side, but there's heaps of switches and gauges, or not gauges, but lights and switches and stuff up there. So we've got to run all of the cabling up there for that. Yeah, and yeah, we had to order a drum of cable yesterday. That was a shock, but that gives us separation. So we're going to have like our primary circuit, which has our throttles and gear shifters and all that sort of stuff, will be in one, and then our secondary, like backup throttle and gear shifters and everything, will be in a completely separate one, so that if one set of wires burns out, it's not going to affect, well, hopefully it won't affect the other set of wires, if that makes sense. And we're trying to keep them as separate as possible, so that, you know, if one completely dies, with a bit of luck, it won't actually affect the other one. Yeah, so bearing in mind everything on Brupeg has to have as many layers of redundancy as possible. That's how we're trying to do our wiring, with as many layers of redundancy as possible. So significantly additional amount of cores if we ever need to change any wiring, and then also separating the cores as well, so that, you know, if one gets hot and melts, it hopefully won't get hot and melt another one beside it, sort of thing. Yeah, so we'll press on. Adam will get into that today, and Ryan is arriving shortly. He'll be here any minute, so you'll start to see him pop up on the episode soon. So Adam's getting stuck into our pipe. So this is it. It's basically welded up fully now. So we just go through, there's little bits of slag and things that have come off the welding when we've, you know, my Slag Master 3000 glove thing hasn't worked. So yeah, we're just going through and just cleaning it up. I'll show you what we're talking about. So you can sort of see there's little wee nicks and bits of crap of weld that are sort of stuck in there. When you weld, obviously you get a bit of splatter, and yeah, it shows up really well on shiny stainless pipe. So we're just about finished. We'll clean that up. Then we've got to cut the hole into the wheelhouse battery box floor. Right, so what we've just done, we've got a 3-inch piece of 3-inch stainless exhaust pipe that's got a bunch of mandrel bends in it, 90-degree bends and things, and it goes So this is our battery box under the wheelhouse floor. The pipe goes down through the floor into the freezer room and then sort of kicks sideways and works its way all the way back to the engine bay, and then drops down into the engine bay, and we're going to make a box, which is, I suppose you could call it like a distribution box, where basically the wire, all of the different runs come through that pipe, and from there they get spread out across the engine bay, and then and likewise at this end they get spread out to all the various components, whether it's, you know, batteries, charge controllers, whatever it may be. So this is the pipe work all installed in the engine bay. So basically comes through the bulkhead. We obviously haven't cleaned that weld up or everything yet, but it comes through the bulkhead and down, and at the bottom of that pipe there's going to be a stainless box that we're going to fold up, and that pipe will actually go inside the box and be welded to the top of it, so it'll be watertight all the way through into the interior of that box. So through the watertight door, comes through this side, and you can see it, basically it's welded on that side too. I'm not going to show you the welds because some of them are horrific. All the way along here does its 90-degree bend. Flip around to the other side, make it a bit easier to see. So it does a 90-degree bend. You can sort of see the context of where it sits. So there you've got your engine bay door, you've got the pipe leading off to the bulkhead. This hatch that you can see here is the hatch that goes down into the freezer room. So I'm standing at the freezer room at the front looking back. So right down there you can see the back end of the engine bay. So whereas that thing there is the very back of the engine bay. That's on the back wall. That's a fuel tank access port. So the pipe comes along here and then it gets straight up into the bottom of the wheelhouse. So that what you can see there, that's the floor of where the batteries sit. So the roof of the freezer room is the floor of the battery box, which is underneath the floorboards of the wheelhouse.
There he is. Our mate Ryan has arrived. Hey!
Hey mate.
How you going? Good to see you again.
You too, buddy.
Come on up, mate.
So where are you actually doing it, Bex? Are you just doing it on the stalls?
Yeah, I think so. I'll take pieces over and paint them individually.
Cool.
Yeah, and then dry them.
We're drying them over here?
Yeah. Do you know what I'm painting it with?
Yeah, it's this. Dan will show you how to mix it up and everything.
Yeah.
And you'll need a mask. We'll get you a mask and stuff.
So the paint that we're using to paint all of the woodwork is a stuff called Everdur. It's basically like a wood preserver. So it's a two-part epoxy coating system, and it's very runny. So think of it a bit like water, and it really seeps into the timber, and it preserves it from, you know, rot and moisture and all that sort of stuff. So it also, and one of the flip sides for us is because we have to make the boat as chemically safe as possible, it actually, the smell of pine is quite like full on for Jess, and this stuff actually seals off the smell. It pretty much makes it inert, so that's why we use this particular stuff for all the woodwork. Right, so Tim has all of these parts. They come out of the wheelhouse. So so for example, all these little bits of wood here, they're different thicknesses. I don't know if you can see, this one's really, really thin. This one's, I don't know, a bit over ½ inch thick. They sort of sit all the way out on the dash, and they take the curve out of the steel and make the dashboard completely flat. So Bex is going to go through. We have to paint all of this stuff and get it completely sealed and preserved before Tim comes back, because then when he comes back we're going to assemble it all into the wheelhouse. So Bex's job today, she's going to go through and put some of the Everdur right across all of the wood parts.
Bex has been out here all day actually painting, so all of the different bits of wood. So we've got the plywood. This is the main dash just in front of the driver and the nav seats. These are the battens that go under the various parts of the under this dashboard here, and then you've got the smaller ones where the dashboard starts to thin right down. So you can sort of see some of these here, they're really quite thin. So these ones are sort of more in the center of the dash, and then they get progressively bigger and bigger until you start getting some that you know, so that they're actually sideways, they sit that way there. But yeah, you start getting some that are getting bigger and bigger. So over here you can see what we got. So that's our chart table, so that big one there is our chart table. Over there on the wheelbarrow, that's a what's that, that's a sort of like a gauge mount type thing. It looks a bit big, but it'll make sense when it's in the wheelhouse. And then same deal, we've got other ones. So this one and these ones here are sort of boxes that go underneath the windows, so they'll make sense once they're all in place as well. So they sit on top of this plywood, and also the one that's sitting on the big rack around the corner. So that big one at the top there, so the dash and this one here go side by side, and then those boxes there sort of sit on top of those. So Ryan is flat out making a digital creation. So this is Ryan in his regular habitat, covered in computers and headphones, editing up some stuff. You can see some of our episodes coming up there.
Am I sitting down
Are you
here?
sure that's recording? Oh, yeah, that's flashy.
Why are you doing this to me?
Oh, it's so comfortable.
Are we in? It's
Right,
like an
hello.
awkward Christmas photo. Alright. What are we saying?
Thanks for watching this episode. Hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, that's my part.
Let's do this.
Alright, I'll just do one.
Okay.
Thanks for watching, guys. No. Alright.
Ready?
Cut this part out, Damien. You might want to time lapse this. No. That's not it either.
Yeah. I still think we should say subscribe and Mish gets cuter. And, oh fuck, I don't know. Did stuff? Oh, we cut some stuff. We welded some stuff.
You did this really good.
Start again.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.
If you want to get involved in the rebuilding of Brupeg, head to our website, brupeg.com. There's a few ways you can become involved in this rebuild, so you can help us out like these awesome people here in Bundaberg, Queensland, volunteering their time. You can also become, if you can't get to us, you can also become a virtual crew member, so you can sign up for extra content.
Make sure you subscribe. That'll do.